Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine the most powerful winter storm you can think of, right? Raging out in the North Atlantic.
Yeah, the kind that really turns up the ocean. Unbelievable force.
Exactly. Now picture the energy from that storm traveling thousands of kilometers, but not, across the surface.
Right.
Down into the Earth's crust, deep through the whole planet, right through the molten outer core, the solid inner core.
All the way through.
And then popping up as this tiny, almost imperceptible tremor, a measurable seismic signal.
On the complete opposite side of the world.
All the way over in remote Australia. It sounds absolutely wild, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And yet, that seemingly unbelievable idea is, well, it's exactly what we're diving into today.
Okay.
We're looking at some really groundbreaking recent research. It's from scientists at the Australian National University, ANU.
ANU, right.
And they found these mysterious seismic signals actually are linking those powerful North Atlantic cyclones to sensors way down under.
Wow. It's a truly fascinating geophysical discovery then. Detailed in a scientific study, you said.
That's right, a proper study.
So our mission today is to really dig into this specific research. How exactly are these, everyday storms revealing secrets about the Earth's deep interior?
Yeah, how does that even work?
And what about the science? The incredibly specialized technology they must have used to detect something so faint across such, vast distances.
Mm-hmm. And the implications, too.
Right. What are the potential implications? Not just for understanding our own planet better deep down, but maybe even for exploring, other worlds entirely.
Get ready, because this deep dive, it's all about uncovering some surprising, pretty profound connections across continents, deep inside our planet.
All from a storm.
All from a faraway storm. It's quite something.
Okay, so let's start with the core finding then. What did the ANU team actually discover was happening? What's the basic idea?
Okay, the central finding is that they've successfully detected very specific seismic waves. And these waves are generated by those incredibly intense winter storms, the ones brewing way up in the North Atlantic Ocean.
And the key insight here isn't just, storms make waves. It's where these particular waves are going.
Exactly. That's the really novel part. These aren't your typical surface waves shaking the ground nearby. These are waves that travel deep. Really deep, right through the Earth's core.
Through the core. Seriously.
Penetrating right to the planet's center before they sort of come back up to the surface.
That's incredible. And they're being detected specifically, reliably, in Australia.
Yes, that's the destination. These specific core-penetrating waves, starting from those North Atlantic storms, are surfacing again and being picked up by specialized sensor arrays.
Where in Australia?
In really remote parts of Australia. And the study identified them as PKP waves.
PKP waves. Okay, can you tell us a little bit about those? Why are they the specific waves making this journey? What's special about them?
Sure. So PKP waves are a type of seismic wave. They can be generated by earthquakes or, like in this case, by ocean activity.
Okay.
What makes them special is their path. They travel down into the Earth, they enter the core.
The liquid outer core first.
Yes, and they get refracted, sort of bend at that boundary between the solid mantle and the molten outer core. Then they travel through the core.
Both outer and inner.
Both outer and inner, potentially, depending on the exact path. And then they're refracted again when they leave the core, heading back out into the mantle towards the surface.
I see.
So it's this unique path through the core that defines them as PKP waves. And that's why detecting them tells us something about the core itself.
Fascinating. And is there a specific time of year this happens? You mentioned winter storms.
Yes, there's a very clear seasonal link, because the source is those intense winter storms in the North Atlantic.
Right.
These core-penetrating PKP waves predominantly show up in Australia during the Southern Hemisphere summer.
So it's perfectly out of phase, seasonally speaking.
Exactly. It's a signature tied directly to the storm season happening on the other side of the planet.
Okay, let's get into the science of how this happens. How does a storm, which is basically just churning water, right? How does it generate seismic waves powerful enough to go through the Earth's core?
Yeah, that's the crucial bit. It's not really the water just sloshing around on the surface that does it directly.
Okay.
It's more about the intense interaction between that powerful ocean water and the solid seafloor below.
Yeah.
Especially in areas where the ocean is deep and the storms are really, really strong.
So the pressure.
Exactly. The pressure exerted by all that turbulent water pushing down on the seabed generates these seismic waves within the solid Earth.
Right.
And this general phenomenon, where ocean activity creates seismic waves, it's known as microseismic noise.
Microseismic noise. I like that term. So the ocean is always causing some background tremor, but these big storms create a kind of special signal within that noise.
Precisely. It's like a constant background hum. But this study managed to pick out specific signals within that hum, signals directly tied to these powerful storms.
And did they figure out where in the North Atlantic these signals were coming from?
They did. They pinpointed specific zones where this seems to happen most effectively. Two key source regions really stood out for generating these deep-traveling PKP waves.
And where are they?
One is near Greenland, specifically around the southernmost point, and the other is in a deeper part of the North Atlantic, near Newfoundland.
So it's not just any old storm anywhere in the North Atlantic, then these waves are coming from particular hot spots.
It seems so. These locations probably have just the right combination of things. The storm intensity, the ocean depth, maybe the shape of the seafloor there.
Right, the conditions have to be just right.
To efficiently transfer that ocean energy into seismic waves that can actually penetrate deep into the Earth.
Oh, yeah.
And the researchers also found they needed to look at a specific frequency band of this microseismic noise. That was key.
A specific frequency band. What does that mean exactly, and why was that crucial?
Well, seismic waves, like sound waves, have different frequencies or periods, right? How close together the waves are.
Huh.
This study focused on a seismic period band of 4 to 6 seconds. You can think of it like tuning a radio.
Oh, okay.
They were listening to a very specific frequency or channel, and focusing on this range was essential.
Why that range?
Because waves in this particular 4 to 6 second period range seem to be the ones most likely to travel efficiently through the Earth's deep interior and still be detectable after passing through the core. It helps filter out a lot of the other, maybe shallower background noise.
Okay, so they understand the source, the type of wave, these PKP waves, the frequency band.
Yeah.
But detecting something so incredibly faint, originating from a distant storm, traveling through the entire planet, I mean, that sounds like a massive technical challenge. How on earth did they actually pick these signals up in Australia?
Yeah, this is where the unique detection method really comes into play. You're right, it's a huge challenge. The ANU team couldn't just use standard single seismic sensors like you'd find scattered around for earthquake monitoring.
Why not?
Because the signals are described as tiny in amplitude, just incredibly small, often too small to be reliably picked up by just one sensor on its own.
Right, it would just get lost in all the local ground noise, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Swamped by local vibrations. So they deployed specialized equipment, 2 specially designed large-scale sensor arrays.
Large scale. How big are we talking here?
We're talking pretty big. Each array covered a significant area 50 by 50 kilometers.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, these weren't small setups. They were sprawling grids of sensors spread over a large patch of ground.
And where did they put them? Presumably not near a city or anything?
Absolutely not. Crucially, they were installed in incredibly remote parts of Queensland and Western Australia.
Okay. This goes back to the faint signal problem, right? Finding seismically quiet locations.
Precisely. Australia has these vast, remote areas that are naturally very quiet seismically. That minimizes the local ground vibrations that could drown out these incredibly faint signals coming all the way from the North Atlantic.
Makes sense.
And there's another advantage to Australia, its unique geographic position relative to those North Atlantic source regions. It's particularly well placed to receive PKP waves that have taken that specific path through the core.
So it's kind of like the target zone on the globe.
In a way, yeah. It's optimally located to catch these particular waves as they emerge on the other side. It's a combination of being quiet and being in the right spot.
So the quiet location and the global position are both key. How did they actually use these huge arrays, these 50 kilometers grids, to spot signals that are too faint for a single sensor?
Right. So they use state-of-the-art techniques called array seismology.
Array seismology.
Yeah. Instead of just looking at what each individual sensor recorded, they analyzed the waveforms, the wiggles on the seismogram, from the entire network of sensors within that 50-kilometer array together.
How does that help?
They were looking for signals that arrived coherently.
Coherently.
Meaning, the same tiny wave pulse arrived at different sensors across the array, but with a slight predictable time difference based on the direction it was coming from.
Ah, like the wave washing across the array.
Exactly. If it's a real signal coming from a distant source, it will have that consistent pattern across many sensors. Random local noise won't.
It's like having dozens of ears all listening for the same faint whisper and using the tiny time differences between when each ear hears it to pinpoint where the whisper came from.
That's a really good analogy, yeah. They're essentially pooling the data from many sensors to amplify that coherent signal, lifting it out of the background noise floor.
Clever.
And to confirm the source really was those North Atlantic storms. They combined data collected over multiple days, even weeks. They could then identify the specific direction and origin point of these coherent signals, confirming they pointed back towards those storm hotspots.
Very sophisticated stuff. Did they use any other existing infrastructure as well?
Yes, they also mentioned complementing their array data with information from Australia's national pool of ocean bottom seismometers.
Aha! Sensors on the seafloor.
Yeah, which adds another layer of observational data, especially from the surrounding oceans, helping to build a more complete picture.
Okay, so let me try and sum up the detection part. You've got these incredibly weak signals generated by distant storms. They travel right through the Earth's core. And detecting them requires these massive specialized arrays placed in the absolute quietest spots possible.
Right.
And then using advanced computer techniques to combine the data from dozens of sensors just to make the signal even visible above the noise. It sounds like a monumental undertaking.
It absolutely is. A real feat of engineering and data analysis. And, adding to the challenge, the signals themselves aren't simple. They're complex, and they can vary quite a bit.
How so?
Well, lots of factors influence whether a storm-generated microseismic wave can actually be detected after making that epic journey.
What kind of factors are we talking about?
Well, obviously the intensity of the cyclone itself.
Yeah.
You'd expect bigger storms to generate stronger signals, right?
Sure, that makes sense.
But also things like the depth of the ocean in the source region matter.
Yeah.
The specific shape of the ocean floor there could play a role. The exact distance the wave travels through the Earth, the exact frequency band you're looking at, like we discussed.
Right, the 4 to 6 seconds.
And even the specific characteristics of the sensors being used.
Yeah.
All these different variables can affect how the wave is generated, the path it takes, and whether it's detectable at the other end.
It's a complicated chain of events. You mentioned earlier, didn't you, that the North Atlantic does have earthquakes?
It does, yes.
So why couldn't scientists just use the seismic waves from those earthquakes to study the core underneath Australia? Why rely on these faint storm signals?
That's a really great question. And the answer is, while the North Atlantic is seismically active, the earthquakes there tend to be fairly low magnitude, generally small.
Not very powerful.
Not usually powerful enough for this kind of study. To probe the Earth's deep structure, especially the core, clearly, you typically need the much stronger seismic waves generated by larger earthquakes.
Okay.
Those waves have enough energy to travel those vast distances through the core and still provide a clear signal on the other side. The signals from typical, smaller North Atlantic quakes often just aren't strong enough to give a good picture of the deep structure beneath Australia. They kind of fade out too much.
Ah, I see. So the storm-generated microseismic phenomena, even though it's faint, it offers a completely different sort of alternative data source
Oh,
for studying that particular path through the Earth.
precisely. It's providing a novel way to illuminate the Earth's interior structure beneath Australia, a region that might be harder to see clearly using just the traditional earthquake data from that part of the world.
Right.
As one of the scientists involved put it rather beautifully, they're studying the structure beneath Australia, the land girt by the sea,
Ah, nice quote.
using the power of the sea on the other side of the world.
That's a fantastic way to think about it. Using the ocean's energy to X-ray the planet.
Essentially, yes.
And, okay, beyond just learning more about our own Earth, this research has implications that really expand our horizons, doesn't it? You mentioned looking beyond our planet.
Yes, this is where the thinking gets really exciting, I think, the detection method they developed here.
Using faint signals from weather or oceans.
Exactly. Using these faint seismic signals generated by atmospheric or oceanic activity to probe a planet's deep interior. Well, that could be incredibly useful for studying other planets, and maybe even icy moons elsewhere in our solar system, maybe even beyond.
How would this method apply to other worlds? What's the connection?
Well, it offers a potential way to figure out if other planets even have a core, especially planets that are geologically very quiet,
Quiet meaning?
meaning they might lack the things we usually rely on for seismology here on Earth, like active plate tectonics or volcanoes or frequent strong quakes.
Right. Traditional planetary seismology needs quakes, or maybe meteor impacts, doesn't it?
It relies heavily on detecting waves from those kinds of energetic events, yes.
So if a planet is sort of dead seismically, using our usual methods, this storm detection approach might still be able to tell us if it has a core, like Earth does.
That's the really exciting idea. You could potentially land a seismometer array, maybe conceptually similar to the ones used in Australia, but obviously adapted for a different environment.
On Mars, say, or an icy moon.
Potentially, yes, on a small, quiet planet or moon. And then, instead of waiting for a big quake that might never happen, you might be able to listen for signals generated by its atmosphere, if it has one.
Like wind. Or pressure changes.
Perhaps. Or maybe tides and currents if it has a subsurface ocean, like some icy moons are thought to have. Signals that might resemble, in principle, the storm-generated ones from this Earth study. And you could use those faint ambient signals to scan its interior and see if there's evidence of a distinct core boundary.
Wow, that provides an entirely new tool for planetary exploration, doesn't it? For understanding what's inside these places.
It really does. It offers a promising new angle for gathering crucial data on the internal structure of distant bodies. And that structure is fundamental, right, for understanding how they formed, how they evolved over time, maybe even their potential for habitability?
It's a way to get structural information even when the traditional seismic hammers, the quakes, aren't there.
Exactly, using the planet's own ambient noise instead.
Okay, let's just bring this back to you, the listener, for a moment. Think about that incredible journey again. The furious energy of a storm way out on the surface of the North Atlantic.
Just unimaginable power.
Transferring just enough of that power down to the seabed to create this tiny, tiny ripple in the solid Earth. That ripple then travels downwards, thousands of kilometers through the rigid mantle rock. It bends as it enters the churning molten outer core.
Changes direction.
Straightens out maybe a bit as it passes through the solid inner core, bends again on its way back out through the mantle on the other side.
It's an incredibly long and complex path.
And finally arrives as a signal so small, it needs to be caught by dozens of sensors spread across 50 kilometers in the quietest possible spot on the Australian continent.
All processed together with super sophisticated techniques.
Just to confirm its existence and trace it back to that storm halfway around the world.
It's an almost poetic connection, isn't it, between the turbulence up here in the atmosphere and ocean system and the deep, hidden structure of the solid Earth way down below.
It really is. And this isn't just some, abstract geophysical curiosity. It's genuinely a brand new way to use ambient planetary noise signals that are just happening anyway all the time.
From storms, from oceans.
To actually probe the hidden structure deep inside our own world. It just shows the power of looking at familiar things like storms with entirely new tools and, new perspectives.
And it really highlights how studying our own Earth in these unique, maybe unconventional ways can unlock entirely new methods for exploring other worlds, places where our traditional seismic techniques might simply not work at all.
Okay, so just to recap the absolute core idea here for everyone listening.
Boil it down.
Powerful storms raging in the North Atlantic are generating specific seismic waves, these PKP waves.
The core penetrating ones.
That travel deep right through the Earth's core. And are then reliably detected by these specialized, large-scale sensor arrays in remote, quiet parts of Australia.
That's the discovery. And the significance. Well, first, it provides new, unique data on Earth's interior structure, especially for paths like the one from the North Atlantic to Australia. That might be tricky to study clearly using just earthquake data.
Filling in gaps in our understanding of our own planet's deep interior.
Exactly. And then, perhaps even more excitingly for the future,
the planetary science angle.
Right. This method offers a potential blueprint, a proof of concept almost, for exploring the insides of distant planets and moons. Worlds that might otherwise be inaccessible to seismic study because they don't have big quakes.
Using signals from their atmospheres or hidden oceans instead.
Potentially, yes. It really makes you think, doesn't it, about all the energy that is constantly moving around us, and even through our planet.
In ways we might not have even considered before.
Revealing secrets from the inside out, using sources we might have overlooked.
Absolutely. Which leaves us with a thought, doesn't it? What other hidden signals might be out there? Maybe traveling through the Earth or through other planets. Signals waiting to be discovered just by looking in unexpected places, or maybe by using unconventional tools.
What secrets might everyday phenomena like storms or tides hold about the deepest parts of the Earth? Or even about the internal structure of distant worlds we haven't even visited yet?
Something to ponder.